Go ahead and get started. As a reminder, please silence your cell phones. For guests and visitors, my name is Jim Farmer, president of this club, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the 19th meeting of the 50th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. Our invocation and pledge of allegiance will be offered by the one and only Jerry Katz. He's coming, he's coming.
Occupied him, I didn't know. Is this fun? I'm the sergeant today. There's no fun today.
Be careful what you say to him.
Yeah. Settle down. If you'll bow your heads with me. We pray to the Supreme Being that we know will hear our prayers. And today we pray for the leaders around your world. Give them wisdom to see a larger picture. Give them a mind of grace and love. Give them a sense of forgiveness. And grant them an attitude of peace. At the same time, bless this Rotary Club and all its members. And touch us with the same gifts. For this and the troubles on our hearts and minds, we all say, Amen. You're getting really good at that. I really appreciate that, and so do all the ministers around the world. So now to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joe Passion will introduce visitors, but other than our, do we have a visitor other than our speaker today?
I don't believe we do.
I don't believe we do either, so you're off the hook. Okay, announcements. Anybody with announcements, please make your way to the podium at this time. I know Peggy's got one for us.
Where's Jerry? Jerry, you should have mentioned to pray for our people attending the night of the races to get more people registered, but I'm here reminding everybody about the night of the races on April 23rd. Our goal is 100 attendees. Right now, we're a little over 50. So we need your help to attend the event. It's a big moneymaker for the club. It's a lot of fun. We know some people may be out of town. Mike Moulton has a golf outing. I told him he could golf at Worthington Hills Golf Club and then just come to the horse race, but he said, but I can always make him buy some horses. We could bet on his horse. But the big thing is the last day to register is April 7th. So please don't wait any later than that. And we hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Yes, as Peggy indicated, this is a great opportunity, I think, for all of us to bring prospective members to a fun event. So please bear that in mind. And with regard to buying a horse, I've had a long conversation with Peggy and she's explained it to me. I still don't understand it, but apparently you'll have more fun if you buy a horse. So bear that in mind.
No food. You don't have to buy food for it.
I want to give a attaboy to Jim Miller. Now, if everybody thinks back to beginning of last year, well, actually middle of last year, we started this year and for the 50th anniversary, we had something we rolled out based on one of our speakers is the 50-hour Rotary Challenge. And unbeknownst to our little, I actually collected all the cards everybody signed, created a huge spreadsheet. It's not huge, but I created a spreadsheet. It's Lent and I can't fit.
Here's for you.
Yeah, but Jim is the first person to submit his challenge. And so I put him into the spreadsheet and just as a good reminder, anybody else, please, as soon as you have your hours, again, I had set individual spreadsheets out, but let me know, we can put you into the spreadsheet and we'll get the originals back to you.
Okay, thank you.
I am gonna follow up a little bit on Night at the Races. We are really looking forward to it. It'll be really fun. I am in charge of the betting table, and that is going to be the most fun place to be. We get to take everybody's money and keep track of the bets and still have a chance to bet ourselves and eat snacks, but I need 2 or 3 more people that might be interested in helping for an hour and a half or the entire 3-hour segment. So about 3 more people, if anyone's interested. I know Shirley's gonna help and Charlie's already helping, so just let me know if you're interested in being at the fun table.
We have got a big table.
You could wear a derby hat. There you go.
Okay, I'm here talking about the NGSE. That's where we send and receive exchange of people about 21 to about 45 can be Rotarians, non-Rotarians. And you spend 3 weeks on the outbound this year in Brazil, about July 1st to about July 20th or so. And they're going to be sending back the Brazilian team for us to host them in January. But right now I'm seeking your attention to give to our club a name of a student or somebody, a student. The NGSE, one of the criteria, you have to be full-time work, a banker for 2 years. Then we want to invite you to go to, like this here, Brazil. The idea is for a vocational as well as a personal and social exchange. They will be staying in apartments and houses in Brazil, getting to understand what goes on during the week, as well as what's happening in their line of work. So if you're a dentist, you'll be in a dentist office down there looking at how they approach things from a government, from a workday thing. It's wonderful. We pick up the airfare. The Brazilians, when they get there, they pick up all the meals and the overnight. So the person basically has a free trip. And if he spends money, it'll probably be on a gift for somebody back here or whatever. So we're wanting to this next weekend or the following weekend, interview at least 8 or 9 people to get a team of 5 people to represent our country. The objective thing is when they come back, they're going to be ombudsmen down in Brazil, but they're also going to come back and tell us about Brazil. So please let me know if you would this week. I'll call if you say, hey, Johnny Jones out here might be interested. I'll call and try to hook him in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions?
Who's paying for this?
Well, we are.
It's not
In,
the district.
huh?
It's not the district.
The district gives us money, not necessarily for that, but for the Rotary outreach element. And so our club, we raise $12,000 a year. That basically covers airfare.
1,200? 12,000 or 1,200?
Yeah, 12 times 5 is, no, it's $12,000. I know that.
Between 5 clubs,
Or 6 clubs.
5 or 6 clubs in the district.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our club writes a check for $2 grand.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to hear my phone ring this week. Thank you.
Well, if you're calling right now, I might be able to get a fine from him, because he didn't turn his phone off.
Yeah, yeah.
March the 8th, we had a food drive in Worthington. We went to 2 locations, Hills Market, collected 245 pounds of food and $218 in cash. Whereas at Price Time, we collected 338 pounds of food and $102 in cash. So total for the Worthington Resource Pantry, 583 pounds and $320. Some of you in this room were there. You can stand up and be in that applause. Stand up if you were there. There we go. I know. Well, I'm sorry, what you said?
stand up slowly because of the frost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was a little bit of chill in the air. All right, on your tables are sign-up sheets to plant 3 trees in our honor grove at Linwood Park, and we'll do that on Arbor Day. Arbor Day is Friday, the 25th of April. So you can come. Mike will have the holes plenty big enough. And we have 3 trees to put in the ground. You can tell us about all of the horses that you didn't win on and how they stumbled and all of that. And we'll rehash the races. So sign up, please. Now, this means that we will have put in 7 trees. No. We put in 4, 6, 9. This will be 9 trees in the grove, and we'll finish off that particular area where, for those of you who have been over there and helped us plant, you know what I'm talking about, but they'll complete the circle and complete the grove, for that part of the park. So if you can be there, sign up or be square. Now, you want me to just go, or you got something?
Now, I want to introduce our sergeant today, the man who seldom gives up the microphone. Jerry Grant.
I'll put on my sergeant's hat and, I almost fell over, you know, I'm getting older. John, you're too,
I'll be glad to do it, Jerry.
I know you would. The bucket's up here somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can prime it
Okay.
for us and so we can get a lot of dollars in there. So,
Okay.
all right, I gave the prayer. I didn't pray for a lot of money for the bucket because I knew I had that covered. So happy dollars. Let's see oh, here we go. Dick.
Last month I took time to go to the Air Force Museum in Dayton. There are now 4 hangars full, and if you want to see all the airplanes, you can walk about 4.5 miles. But I knew I was really getting old because I looked at all these airplanes in the museum that I worked on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so happy dollars for that.
Is that what you're saying?
Hustle over there, John, before
Oh,
we
yeah.
lose up. Okay, Peggy.
I just have a happy dollar that 2 of our members attended all Ohio Peds in Columbus this past weekend. Joe Patchen is our incoming president, and of course, Steve is our incoming assistant governor. So
All right, there we go. Thank you very much. Yes, Steve.
I've got a number of happy dollars, I've only got $3, so I'm tapped out.
Okay,
$1 for my sister's, my niece, I've got a niece.
Good.
$1, yes. My birthday's Friday, and on my birthday, I'm getting out of here, I'm going on a visit.
How old will you be?
39.
Oh,
39.
so.
Jack Bennett.
Likely story.
Jack Bennett, where is your violin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Midlife crisis.
How many cruises will this be that you've gone to Disney cruises?
2 cruises,
2.
yeah. 4.
Excuse me, I closed at my house Friday, so Joe is the new neighbor.
Okay, Did he approve? Did you get his approval for that?
I think fine.
Did you get his approval for that new neighbor?
I don't think so.
Okay.
One of the clauses was they had to be, join the Rotary, I'm sure.
I'm sure that was it.
Approval pending.
Now, Court, we're just interested to know exactly how many hours was your house on the market before it got sold?
6.
6. Yes. Well, it's,
Rooms are real.
yeah,
My realtor, the answer to that question is Courtney Shaw. This gentleman happens to be my great nephew.
okay, all right. All right. So did you sell it to your great nephew?
I'm sorry?
Did he buy it? Did he buy it?
Did you buy it?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, the reason that property was so hot is because of the school system. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, any other happy dollars? Yes, Jim?
I will throw in the fine for my photo. I'm happy because there was I got to see the perfect blood moon, but the world didn't end. So sometimes the Bible is full.
And what time did you get up to the city? 2 o'clock, 2:30? Okay, good. Oh, you're
Very
still
good.
working on more Rotary stuff at 2:30, huh?
Darnell. Since John's in the neighborhood,
I'm about a month late on this, but this is for my new granddaughter in New York.
Oh, wow.
hey, very good. All right, we'll make this quick because I've been here too long. Joe.
I'd like to do 5 happy hours on credit.
Okay.
Okay.
2 for my son and daughter being home last week on spring break, and 2 for them going back. 1 for pets, I very much enjoyed it.
Okay, that's good, Joe. And I can tell you that, Joe will put it in. One time I loaned him a few bucks for the raffle because he doesn't carry cash. He says he's afraid somebody will mug him. So, but in the next week, he actually returned the money. However, I'm not gonna allow that on credit. We will, well, we're not only billing him, we're billing him $6 because there is a carrying fee. You know, our executive secretary is a paid employee. So. All right. Today is National Read to Me Day. Bonnie Beth, put in $1. You're the librarian.
Got it.
Today is National Poultry Day. My fellow sergeant back there, put in $1 for National Poultry Day. Put in another $1 for the trying to do the dad joke before I'm ready. Today is National Automatic Door Day.
Oh.
Shirley, put in $1. You need automatic doors wherever you can be.
This is good.
And today is also Anonymous Giving Week. So here's the deal, folks. If you ever didn't put in your $1 because you didn't have it or you thought it was lame, for whatever reason, over the last year, today is your day. You can put it in today.
Because
Okay?
it's what day is it?
It's an anonymous giving
Oh,
week.
okay.
Okay.
What we're doing here.
Well, John's not, the other John's not here, but today, on this day in 1931, Nevada legalized gambling, which we will do in April, so I'm not fining you for that. Today, in 1918, Woodrow Wilson signed the Standard Time Act, which created, of course, a daylight saving time. But it also gave government control over the time zones. You want to be careful about that because our president might want to get into the time zones. I don't know. In 1957, on this date, Elvis Presley put a down payment on Graceland. I don't know how much it was. On this date, oh no, I can't do that one. On this date in 1957, and I remember this one. The Cleveland Indians rejected Boston's offer of $1 million for Herb Score. If you remember Herb Score, put in $1. All right.
Well,
There is,
Dick Willow remembrance, that's good. 'Cause Dick's
there is,
museum.
there is no dad joke today because of what I'm gonna do now. I have 4 things about Chicago. If you have ever been to Chicago or would have wanted to go to Chicago or know somebody that went to Chicago, then you're gonna pay a fine. Today, on this date in 1928, Amos and Andy debuts on the radio. Some of us are old enough to remember Amos and Andy, and we don't need to be as old as Court. They were on the NBC station in Chicago. On this date, in 1943, Frank Nitti. You remember Frank Nitti? Yeah, well, he's a friend of Al Capone. I'll bet none of you, well, probably very few of you know how he died.
But that's another story, hopefully.
Actually, he committed suicide in the Chicago Central Rail Yard. In 1969, the Chicago 8 were indicted after the Chicago Democratic Convention. But the biggest thing that happened in 1942 is that the Thoroughbred Racing Association was formed in Chicago. Put in your money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I took all your time.
And if you believe that a gangster committed suicide, I can sell you anything. Okay, the next person I'm gonna bring to the podium, this bears an explanation. I worked for many years with a woman named Linda Frederico. And so I have botched our next person's name so many times, I have to apologize. Please welcome Lisa Federico to the stage.
Thank you so much.
You just gotta say L, Federico.
Our speaker today is Miss Rebecca Milnes. She founded the Avenue Wellness Center, which is out in Hilliard. Rebecca and I have been friends now for a little over 6 months. She spoke at a conference last week that was hosted by the Worthington Chamber, where she talked about empowerment and our ability to empower ourselves with the right healthcare choices. You're going to hear from Rebecca some of the therapies that she offers for people who have had traumatic brain injuries, for people who suffered from strokes, from people who perhaps have neuropathy. These are some conditions that our medical community hasn't always been able to get great results with modern medicine. What Rebecca is bringing to the table is therapies like hyperbaric oxygen chambers. She has an amazing story herself about how she came to found this, the Wellness Center, and I'm just pleased to have her here and talk to you about what she does in our community.
I'll just, do you want me on the camera or does it make any, oh, I am anyway. Perfect, I'll let you. All right. So let me start by saying that, my daughter at the age of 41 had a stroke. A month after her dad died. And, she had some damage. It wasn't as extensive as it might have been, but it was enough that she lost her sense of balance. She was having some seizures. She had light sensitivity, migraine headaches, a few things like that. She was able to walk and she was still able to talk. So she didn't have some of the deficits that she might have, but she still had some problems. So 9 months later, she had an endometrial cancer and had to have a hysterectomy, which meant another anesthetic. And anytime you have an anesthetic, you can have a loss of some oxygen to the brain at that time, which in her case was just compounding what she'd already had. So a few months after that, because of her lack of balance, she fell twice. She was using a cane or a walker to get around, and she fell and had 2 concussions. At that point, she really was having some problems. She had memory loss, she had some cognitive issues, she had some temper issues. She had emotional lability, which is where you laugh at things that aren't particularly funny, or you cry too easily, or you get angry very easily. She still had the balance issues. She was having seizures so that she couldn't drive, and she's now 43 years old. So she's in the stroke clinic at Riverside Hospital. And she went to see her neurologist, and he said, well, 2 years, if whatever damage you've had, it's either resolved or it hasn't. And so welcome to the new you. Now she's 43 years old. She's tremendously depressed. She can't drive because she's having seizures. She's not thinking clearly. She doesn't have a good memory. She now has light sensitivity. She can't go in a room with LED lights because LED lights emit a flicker, and that would trigger her seizure. So she had numbness all the way down her right side from her ear down to her foot. So she was really in not very good shape. And so she started reading and researching, and she found this place called the Apex Brain Center in North Carolina. And they said that they could help with neurological damage, brain damage. And she called them up and they said, yeah, they thought they could help her, but they couldn't get her in for 8 to 10 weeks because they're all booked up. And I was out in California at the time, and I said, well, ask them what their hallmark is. What is it they do that's going to help you that the hospital and the neurologists and people are not offering? And she asked them, and they said hyperbaric oxygen. We said, okay, I don't even know what that is, but is there a facility? Is there someplace in the area? And she searched around and found out, sure enough, there is a freestanding facility outside of the hospitals in the Dublin area. And she could go there for hyperbaric oxygen. So she got started, and on the very first day that she went, she said that it was like putting a pair of glasses on for the first time. When she got out of the hyperbaric chamber, she realized she could see. Her vision was clearer, which, was kind of interesting because she didn't really realize that she couldn't see. But you know how you get a pair of glasses and you put them on for the first time and you go, oh my word, there are leaves on those trees. I didn't really realize that. And so she had that sensation. The second day she went in, she said she actually felt a click in her head. Something just changed. And it was like being in the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is in black and white. And when they open the doors to the land of Oz, it's in Technicolor. And she said, all of a sudden, there was color. And she didn't even realize that she was not seeing in color. So that was amazing. And then that lifted her depression. It was like, it was gone. It never came back. That was in 2021. So she was in there for about 4 weeks and making some remarkable progress and telling me all about, the different things that she was having, fewer headaches, and she had not had a seizure since she went in. And she said, Mom, you need to get David in here. David is my son. So Kristen was 43 at the time she started, and David is 8 years younger. So let's see, you do the math. Anyway, so he's 35. And David has an autoimmune disorder. And it's called mast cell syndrome. And it's where your body attacks itself. If it's presented with an allergen, it erupts and it will form cysts. So he'd had surgery twice to keep him from losing his hand and his arm, where the cysts got so large they were cutting off the circulation. And she said hyperbaric is supposed to be really good
for inflammation and for skin diseases. So we flew him in from California, and again, miraculously, in 30 days, his condition had completely cleared up. So we started looking into hyperbaric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain, well, if we started looking not just at hyperbaric, but at the realm of things that are called alternative medicine. These are things that are not used primarily by Western medicine, but they are all with science bases. So everything I'm going to tell you about, we have studies done at major universities, at hospitals, at Mayo Clinic, at all sorts of different places that will attest to the efficacy of these types of treatments. So the first one is hyperbaric. Are there any of you who know what hyperbaric oxygen is?
Pressure.
It's oxygen under pressure. That's correct. So what happens is oxygen is a gas. If anybody remembers physics, which I really didn't, I had to go back through and learn all this stuff again. So oxygen is a gas. When you put a gas under pressure, when you compress it, it liquefies. So just like with propane, you have propane, which is a gas, and they compress it to put it in canisters for you to bring to your house for your grill and different things. So oxygen under pressure becomes in a more liquid state. So when you go into a hyperbaric chamber, you get oxygen that's delivered in a pressurized environment. So also the oxygen that we breathe on a normal daily basis, we breathe 21% oxygen in our normal atmosphere. It's been that way for thousands of years. It's 21%. Despite what they tell you about pollution and then everything else, it's remained constant at this altitude. So in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, you might be getting 90%, 95%, or 100% oxygen. The trick is that when you take this oxygen in, instead of just going in through your lungs into your hemoglobin, it goes into your blood plasma. And the blood plasma carries the oxygen further into your system. Now, what happens is oxygen in your body reacts with an electrical charge. Every cell in our body has an electrical charge. So when the oxygen interacts with this electrical charge, it creates something called ATP, and ATP is energy. If you have a chronic disease, if you have heart disease, you have diabetes, you have arthritis, you have an autoimmune disorder, any number of different things, an injury, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, long COVID, any of those things can cause your system to lose charge in your cells. That's the reason people are tired, because they don't have any energy. They don't have any energy because their cells have lost their charge. So when you put in this infusion of oxygen, you get more energy into your body. When you get more energy, it increases your circulation. So you feel better, you have more energy moving around. But the big thing is, it removes inflammation from your body because your circulatory system is working and you get rid of inflammation. Inflammation is in every chronic disease. It's what causes pain. It's what causes your organs to not be able to repair, your system, your tissue to not be able to repair. So somebody gets a fine. Yeah. I'll collect that. So when you get rid of this inflammation, you immediately start having a reduction in pain and your body has more of an ability to start healing. So, you know, the types of things, for example, I said, well, like strokes, for example, strokes are really important because when you have a stroke, all of the blood flows to your brain. It's all trying to heal your brain, and then your brain gets inflamed and that cuts off circulation to other areas. And heart attacks, neuropathy. Neuropathy is a great one. You get inflammation if you're diabetic and you get neuropathy in your feet, it's because you're not getting circulation in your feet. When you don't get circulation in your feet, your nerves die. That's what neuropathy is, nerve death in your feet. So when we're able to increase the circulation, that enables those things to start growing, to start responding, to start having a lessening of pain, so to speak. So that's the other thing is at 20 sessions, and I'm sorry on this, there is science, but I don't know what causes it. When a person has 20 treatments in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, their body starts producing more stem cells. You have 8 times more stem cells after 20 treatments in a hyperbaric chamber than when you started. Those stem cells go anywhere in your body. They'll go to your brain. You've had cognitive decline, memory decline, stroke, concussion, TBI, anxiety, any of those types of things, those stem cells will go up there. If you have neuropathy, some of the stem cells will go to your feet. If you have nerve pain, some of the stem cells will go to the nerves. You can't tell them where to go. One of the good stories that I think I have is that we had a man who had GERD, gastric, he was constantly at IBS. And he came because his throat was so inflamed he couldn't swallow. They told him he was pre-esophageal cancer because his throat was so red. He was coughing up blood. And so that's what we were trying to work with him on. So it was helping. He started having less blood come up and his throat swelling went down and everything. But 2 weeks in, he comes walking in and he says, "Well, you ladies notice anything?" And we said, "No, why?" And he goes, "Well, he had surgery on a hernia 2.5 years before, and it never healed. And so it had been inflamed. They'd given him all sorts of antibiotics and, topicals and everything, but it just never healed. It was sore, it was red, it was, very puffy. And all of a sudden the hyperbaric cleared up the infection. And his big thing we were supposed to notice was he wasn't in sweatpants with suspenders. He had a pair of jeans on with a big Harley belt buckle. And he was so proud of it, and so he was glad that his throat was better, but I mean, he was like waltzing around with these pants, do you notice anything, ladies? No, can't say as we do, that's not what we're looking at. But my point is that you have a lot that's going on in your body, and sometimes you'll say, well, my shoulder, I have arthritis in my shoulder so badly, and they're in so much pain, and that hurts. And you forget that you also injured your hip, or you've got something else that didn't happen. But the hyperbaric doesn't know that. It just goes wherever it wants to go. Wherever it finds a need, that's where it goes. So also it's really good after things like surgeries. If you have a hip replacement, it will help with the healing. It will accelerate the healing from a hip replacement or a shoulder replacement or a knee replacement. If you have a broken bone, it will heal that bone in normally about half the time that they normally say it's going to heal. So we had a young man who had what we call a chemo bone because he had chemotherapy when he was 8 years old. And he had his left leg removed, amputated above the knee. So he's a Paralympic snowboarder, and he was out in Colorado last year, and they were getting ready to go to Norway for some Olympic training. And he got showing off and went down and hit a mogul incorrectly, landed on his only leg and snapped his ankle and broke his tibia. And I mean, this is like the last run of the season in the US. They're going to Norway and he's off the Olympic team. So he calls up and he says, I need to have my leg fixed, but I don't want to have surgery. What can you do for me? And we said, well, we can help heal the broken leg, but you have to have surgery. You have to have the pin put in. We can't heal it crooked. There's no sense in having them come in with a leg like this. We don't set it. We're not medical professionals. So he had the leg, he had the pin and the plate put in, pins and a plate. And the doctor told him he would be 16 weeks non-load bearing because he has chemo bone, very brittle. And he came in for 5 weeks which is more than a normal person would come in for a broken bone, but because of his condition, he was in 5 weeks, 5 times a week. And at the end of the 5 weeks, he went back to his orthopedic surgeon and he had his x-ray and the doctor looked at him and he said, this is unreal. What have you been doing? He said, your leg is fully healed. You are cleared for weight bearing. You are cleared to go back out and compete. And he said, well, I've been doing hyperbaric oxygen. And he said, never heard of it. And so he said, you're cleared for competition. So the next week, that was on a Friday, the next Friday, Derek was back out in Colorado. They had the final competitive event and he qualified for the nationals for this year, which means that this year he qualified and now he's in line to get a spot back on the Olympic team. If they have a vacancy open up, he'll be competing. And you think if he had to wait the 16 weeks, he would have missed it. And his Olympic dream would have been gone. I don't know that he'll make it now, but he at least still has a chance. So, you know, we're thrilled when we can offer something like that. We've had a number of ankle surgeries and knee surgeries and things like that where people come in and well, hip replacement, that's a great one. We have people who come in from a hip replacement the day after they have the surgery and they're in pain and they come out of the chamber and they're not in pain and they don't need pain pills. And within 2 weeks, they're back up and running and no pain. So that's one of the huge things that I'm just amazed. We can see people who come in who are on Oxy. Everybody in the world's on gabapentin these days. You know, you go to the doctor, you have a little thing, they put you on gabapentin like that. It's so bad for you. It's not good for your liver. It's not good for your kidneys. And they can come in and get hyperbaric and not need pain killers. You don't need aspirin. You don't need a lead. You don't need Tylenol. You know, you can go out and function and you no longer have the pain. Migraine headaches. It works really, really well with migraine headaches. They're just, I mean, we have diverticulitis. Oh my goodness. Some of the things, I mean, it's as much an art as it is a science because everyone is different. Everyone heals differently. Everyone's physiology is different. But diverticulitis, when the lady came in for that, I thought, I don't know if this is going to do any good because yes, it takes away inflammation, but my understanding, diverticulitis is when your colon is kind of pitted and it catches things in it. And then you get bleeding and you get all these different conditions that come with it. This woman came in and in a week, she was not in pain any longer. Her bleeding had stopped. And now it's been months since she has had any issues and she had had diverticulitis for 25 years. So, you know, I mean, the things that we see are just amazing. With neuropathy, I don't know if any of you knew Jim Ganal, the weathercaster who unfortunately just died a couple of weeks ago. Jim was actually one of our first people, he was our guinea pig and he had had neuropathy since 2012, he had zero feeling in either one of his feet. And he also had it in his hands. He said his feet just felt like they were blocks of wood. And so he came in intermittently. Jim was not the most consistent, but he was always called to the station, you know, for some weather emergency. And when he quit at 5 months, he had 80% feeling back in both feet and about 60% in his hands. Now, again, I don't know why the hands respond much slower than the feet. And it's not just with him. And anyone we've treated since then who's had it in the hand has had less success with the hands. So he was at 80% at 5 months. When we talked with him later, like at 9 months, he had 100% feeling in his feet. Because when you get these new stem cells, they don't just disappear, they start at the 20th treatment and they keep building and they keep adding to the stem cells in your body. So, you know, he had 100% recovery. Now, unfortunately, Jim had congestive heart failure and a number of other issues that we weren't able to help with. And hyperbaric doesn't help everything. It doesn't. There are no guarantees. I was just telling Lisa, we had someone who came in for long COVID. Normally, they say 20 treatments to 40 treatments for long COVID. He came in and at 10 was completely recovered. His wife came in and at 10, she felt nothing. And she quit. She wasn't gonna give it, I mean, he was a, you know, an outlier. I mean, he shouldn't have felt that great at 10, but he did. He was done. And she wasn't willing to give it. If she couldn't have his same level of recovery, she wasn't gonna fool with it. Maybe she wouldn't have ever recovered the same as he did. I don't know, because like I said, everyone is different. But we have a nurse practitioner who examines everyone and checks with them to make sure that they're okay to go in and recommends a treatment plan. But the point is, it does not work on everyone. There are certain things that you can't do, or you can't go in if you have certain types of defibrillators, pacemakers, things like that, that are they're just not compatible with a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. But we also have a lot of other things. And again, this is part of the research that we started doing. Red light therapy is an amazing thing. It's an amazing tool. It's totally non-invasive and it helps with pain. Pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, we call it PEMF. You know, you heard the astronauts made it down, the 2 astronauts, they finally got them back down from space after they've been up there for 7 months or whatever horrible thing, they got stuck up there. They can't walk. They can't move because they've been up there for so long that they've lost the gravitational pull. You know, they were up there so long and it deteriorates both your muscle and your tissue. I mean, your tissue and your bone. So what they will do, and this was developed by NASA, and it's called pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, and it puts a current or a charge back into your body, into those cells like I was talking about, and it increases bone density. So it's really good for people who have osteoporosis or osteopenia. That's what they're going to use with the astronauts now to get them back in shape. They will use that. They developed it, Russia and the US NASA team developed this pulsed electromagnetic field therapy for exactly that, bone density and tissue repair. And that's what they will put these guys on when they get them back down here in order to rebuild their bodies after they've lost all of this function while they were up there stranded in space. So I know it's a lot of technical stuff, and I'm sorry, there's not really, I mean, I'm trying to speak in non-medical language as much as I can, but there's no other way to explain it except to say this is not magic. This is not, it's not woo-woo, it's not shamans, it's not anything. These are bona fide techniques that are used, and most of them employ some method of either electrical or sound or vibrational therapy. The reason is because all of us are electrical beings. We all respond to sound, to vibrations. That's the reason we have EKGs and EEGs and MRIs. Those are all measures of electrical activity. And sound therapy has been used profoundly with any number of success in terms of treating anxiety, stress, disorders, all types of different things. And then acoustic light wave was developed by Tesla and by Royal Rife, and they all are things that try to tune the body to its harmonious state. Over a period of years, as we're exposed to toxins and different things, you know, we become out of balance. So are there any questions? Is there anything I can answer for anyone? Yes, sir.
Got so many questions. How much does it cost? Does it insure? What's the timeline? Like, what's that some of, like the logistics of it?
Okay, here's the best way I can answer it. First of all, it's not covered by insurance. Now, Robert Kennedy is trying to get that changed. He's trying to get the FDA to approve the things for insurance, but currently it's not. There are 13 things. Those are all ones you would have treated in the hospital, not at a freestanding clinic. Secondly, I can't tell you what a cost would be just standing here because I don't have any idea of what you'd be treated for. That's like saying, how much is it going to cost me to go into the hospital? I don't know, but pardon?
A lot.
Well,
For the hospital.
you mean the hospital?
Yeah.
Anything is expensive, but it depends on what your return is. You know, the people I tell you who've come in who could not walk, coming into our place and can now walk and go out and be with their grandkids and play top golf and walk around with them on Halloween are all things that I've heard from people who were on wheelchairs or walkers coming in. So we have a certified nurse practitioner who sits down and does it's a free assessment, 45 minutes to an hour, whatever it takes. And she will listen to everything you have to say about everything it is you're trying to change, fix. And then she outlines a plan and says, okay, this is what we recommend. And then you can pick and choose of those things. So the one thing I try to tell people is that, yes, we have hyperbaric. It is our big gun. It is the Cadillac. It's the Ferrari. So when you go into a Chevy dealership, and you say, I need transportation, and they point out this Corvette that's on the floor. Wow. Great great piece of machinery. It goes 0 to 60 and whatever, and it's got all this horsepower. But you can't afford that. And so you end up and you go out with a Chevy Volt, which still gets you where you're going. It just takes a little bit longer. Maybe it's not as flashy. So we have things for all different price points. And it depends on what your particular condition is as to how long it takes and how your body responds.
If you go in for neuropathy and then you walk out and it's much better, will it stay that way or do you regress and have to go back for further treatment?
Well, again, it depends on the condition. So with neuropathy, we kept a good connection with Jim Ganol because we knew him personally. And what killed him was not the neuropathy. In fact, it never came back. So he had not been in for any additional treatments for it. We have another gentleman who's been out 18 months. He's had no recurrence. In fact, he just gave us a referral to someone the other day. So no, if you have something like psoriasis, which is an autoimmune disorder, I told her when she came out and was, very, very happy about it. I said, you will probably, like if you have a flare-up, you come in, you do one session, it will stop it probably right then, maybe 2 sessions. We'll see how long it takes in between. Maybe you'll go 2 months, maybe you'll go 4 months. Maybe you come back once a year, for a couple of sessions. She has come back for a couple, but not for that. She hasn't had any recurrence with her psoriasis. She had a couple of other things that she decided she wanted to treat. So it just depends on what the condition is. There are some things that are chronic diseases and might require a tune-up. But that's not our goal. Our goal is get you out. We don't want to see you again.
If this is such a miracle approach, it sounds like it, why don't we know more about this? And why hasn't it been better promoted or?
Well, it puts the pharmacies out of business. So there are 13 things that are FDA approved. And they're really complex things like we don't have the expertise, nor do we want to do things like 3rd-degree burns where you need to change bandages, or someone who's had smoke inhalation or carbon monoxide poisoning. You need a medical facility to monitor your blood gas and all that kind of stuff. And those things are FDA approved and they are covered by insurance. Ours are considered off-label. And in order to get one of them approved, the word on the street is it would cost about $40 million to get FDA approval. Just, if I were to go in and say, oh, I want to get strokes approved, then it's not patentable. So if I got it on the FDA list, it helps me and everybody else in the business. Okay, I'm not that, well, I just don't have that kind of money to do that and donate it to the general public. The other thing is, doctors do not know anything about this. I heard somebody say they had an hour on hyperbaric in medical school. They never saw it. They've never seen it used. And they don't read up on it. And in fact, Ohio State, I met with someone from the speech therapy department there, and she was telling me how, oh, it doesn't work. The studies are inconclusive. And I said, yes, I know which study you read. You read this one. Read it again. They did one hyperbaric treatment. And then said it didn't work. So that's like giving somebody one treatment of chemotherapy or one dose of antibiotic. You know, read the study. That's the reason it's inconclusive, because it was a poor study. So, you know, I talk to doctors, I talk to as many people as I can. That's one of the reasons I'm out here today, to try to increase the awareness that there are other things that are available that are outside of the normal scope of medicine, which are non-invasive, they're pain-free, there's no side effect. Generally speaking, I mean, there are a couple of things, like I said, we screen to try to make sure we don't have someone that's not compatible with the equipment. But there's a whole world of these things out there. And the doctors are simply not listening.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that gives us a lot to think about and hope for aging. We now have a raffle. Who's gonna conduct our raffle today?
Me.
You. That would be Roy Morrow.
47408.
408 last week.
I'll take that one.
Ow. $43. Last four, 7342 for 400 and.
416.
So 7342.
Right here. There it is.
But you know where the cards are.
Oh, no, I haven't looked at that. Well drawn. Okay, now let's stand and say the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do, first. Second. Third. Fourth. Thank you, we are adjourned.
I'm sorry.
Don't forget your hat.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Monday.
Do you do back?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, a lot of people say they don't want to sell, and that's the reason I was asking, because some people. Yes, they bet it's used and they bet.
Yeah, that's on there. You want one?
Put it in part with us, so they put it in part. Yeah, you work in the lab?
I did. I've been retired. I got another two for him. There you go.
Right on 270.
Got a golf course, that's it.
No, were you down on Cemetery Road?
Yeah. Oh, I'm going the other way. Yeah, I'm going west.
So if you're going south on 270 down towards Homestead.
They're gonna go to cemetery.
Yeah. Well, you don't get off. Cemetery, Roberts Road. So you get up on Roberts and you go west on Roberts, you were a mile and a half.